Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Nosa. I'm a medical doctor in the UK and I make videos on medicine and lifestyle. A few months into GP training and I feel obliged to share with you guys some things or facts I wish anyone told me before I started GP training. In this video, I'm going to be focusing mainly on the cons about GP training and becoming a GP. If you'd like to see more, please keep watching. The first important fact to be aware of is that your experience of GP training is very, very much dependent on the GP practice or surgery you end up in. Now, for example, some practices just look at trainees like for service provision, which means that they don't really care so much about your training. It shouldn't be like that, but that's just the way reality of life sometimes. They don't really care much about your training. They're just looking at you like, okay, first of all, they get paid to have you there. That's number one. They also don't pay your salary. You know, the NHS actually pays your salary. So technically, you're employed by the NHS, but they've assigned you to this practice. And you're seeing patients like every other doctor. But the expectation is that, you know, you're debriefing, so discussing these cases with your supervisor, making sure that he or she gives you feedback on your management plan so you can continue to improve. Some other places will just have you working there. They don't really care. The supervisor is not really hands-on with you. They're not really caring what's happening with you. And it's those little things that can make a big difference about whether you like or dislike GP training. If you go to an area where the population is mainly elderly people, then you're likely to be doing home visits every day, depending on the practice. Versus if you go to an area where most people are young, you're less likely to have housebound patients, you know, then that's unlikely to be included in your role. It's like a lottery. If you end up in one place that, you know, is not particularly great, that's quite sad, but just bear in mind that you can request to move practices. Sometimes there's nothing even wrong with the practice itself. It's just that you and the practice just don't match, and no one's going to judge you about that. We're entitled to 27 days of annual leave a year if you've had less than 5 years NHS experience, and if you've had more than 5 years, then you're entitled to 32 days a year. Fine. We only work 40 hours a week, technically, of which included in that 40 hours is private study time, a tutorial with your supervisor, and GP teaching. Because of that, you end up having half days, like maybe 1 or 2 half days a week. Now, these half days, some practices will be like, okay, if you take annual leave on your half day, that only counts as half a day annual leave. Cool. But some practices are like, actually, we don't care if you take it on your full day or your half day annual leave, it's going to count as 1 day annual leave. Now, it sounds minor, but to me, it's just unfair for two trainees to be in the same GP training. They're going to end up with the same certificate, and one person is getting a bit more annual leave than the other person. Those are the little things I wish that perhaps Health Education England will try and standardize, you know, just make rules. Is half a day annual leave going to count as half a day, or is it going to count as a full day? Another thing is the amount of prescription to get every day. GP trainees, most practices will have to sign up for a certain amount of prescriptions, patients requesting medication. And always when the patient is requesting medication, you need to make sure that they've had the checks that they should have. So if they are high blood pressure medication, most of them will require you to have annual blood tests, or like, you know, have their blood pressure checked every now and then. So those little things, you know, every practice has decided how much prescriptions they think is suitable to assign a trainee every day. Again, I wish that perhaps Health Education England considered making sure that every practice assigned a maximum number every day in addition to clinical work, and also make sure that everybody's getting sufficient admin time, because honestly, some practices will try and, you know, chip into your admin time and try and get you to do a bit more work than you should. This is a very, 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 very important point I'm about to make. Please don't go into GP training because you think it's the easy option. Like, you will be shocked. Honestly, as much as I've met people that have left the hospital life to switch to GP training because it allows more flexibility, those people would not tell you that GP training is easier. There are people that have also left GPLand to go to the hospital because GP training and being a GP in general can be very stressful in a different way. And yes, the training is shorter. It's 3 years after you've completed 2 years of foundation training, versus, let's say, at least 5 to 8 years in the hospital specialty after foundation training. Yes, the training is much shorter, but don't underestimate how much GPs do. Don't underestimate how much work GPs get done and how stressful it can be. The way I have felt mentally exhausted after work with GP training, no hospital job has done that for me. Because let me just put it in context for you. In the hospital, you're in ED, You know, you can kind of, I know they have targets, but you can kind of take your time to see a patient. If a patient needs more time, they need more time. And if you're running behind, you don't have to worry about that patient because somebody else is seeing that patient. GP training, you have a list of patients to see in a day. Whether you run late, whether you don't run late, all those patients need to be seen, right? You can have, like, let's say 16 patients for the day, different complexities of which you need to arrange, maybe blood tests, x-rays, all these things. And you have to, each and every patient, you have to think of a, you know, do the history, examination, come up with a management plan that you're happy with and is safe, right? There's a lot more risk in GP. You're a lot more independent, and yes, you have a supervisor there, but that supervisor is not going to be spoon feeding you, hanging around to see every single thing you're doing, right? So you need to be safe. You need, and that pressure, there's a lot more pressure and responsibility on your shoulders because you're like, oh, if I make a mistake, it could actually be, you know, the consequences could be quite grave for the patient, which is why when you say a lot of GP trainees or GPs, a lot of them are actually part-time because it is a lot to do 5 days a week. This next point I'm about to make is, I think, affects GP partners more, but it can trickle down to trainees. Internal politics. Because GP practices are technically businesses, and you have these partners that come together to start this business. When they, you know, when they initially start off, things are hunky-dory good. After a few years, you start seeing people clashing, people having different ideas about what they think is important, where you think the business should go. When this happens between GP partners, it is a pain because the GP partners obviously bear the brunt of this because they're obviously the ones in the conflict. But it starts to trickle down to the reception staff, to the trainees. You start to realize that one person wants you to do things this way, the other person wants you to do it this way. And then it's just stressful in a different way. So one thing I learned from so far about GP training is that before I even consider going into a partnership, it's going to take a long time because I'm not about to start stressing, fighting with everyone. And obviously there's some people in amazing partnerships, but there's always that chance that when things get bad, it's like a nasty divorce. Like, I kind of seen trinkets of it happen before, and it's not pretty. GP is also quite isolating. You're in your office. Some practices are more social than others. You know, some places have a communal area where you can go and make your tea, have some lunch, and speak to the members of staff. Some places don't have that. Everybody's in their office having lunch, go to work, come back. And yes, if you have a question, you can ask. But one thing sometimes I do miss about the hospital, although I'm the kind of person that likes working alone, is sometimes, man, just going to, I don't know, working with somebody else. Like, you know, you have a jobs list, both of you trying to make sure you complete the job list. In the hospital, in the GP practice, you're just on your own. You have to complete, you know, your work by yourself. Like, sometimes, you know, you just want somebody to you just want to run an idea by somebody. Oh, what do you think? Do you think I should get that X-ray or something? You know, and then, you know, somebody just be like, nah, don't think so, doesn't matter. But you think with GPLand, you don't always want to go and ask your supervisor every tiny thing, because at the end of the day, they are working too. Like, you don't want to be annoying. Now, for those of you that have done hospital jobs before, you know how people complain about all this admin they have to do. Discharge letters for patients, requesting bloods, you know, do different things. That's what we call admin. GPLand, if you hate that in the hospital, GPLand is like times 10 worse. Like, you're going to spend a lot of time reviewing blood results, a lot of time, you know, reviewing x-ray results, reviewing medications, writing letters, depending on your practice. Some people have receptionists that do that, but you still need to write the content of the letter. Or just loads of admin. There's a lot of admin to do. A lot of time when you're not spending speaking or seeing patients. You're just literally looking at different things that you should be acting upon. Some people find that tiring and exhausting and all of that. So again, bear that in mind before you consider GP training. I had moments where I had to reflect and really think, is GP training for me? And I, you know, still came to the conclusion that despite all these negative things, outcomes, there's obviously pros about the job. Main one being flexibility. Now, I really think that this is why most GPs choose GPLand, because obviously it's nice to see patients, the continuity of care where, you know, you can literally be taking care of a family, then you take care of the children and then grandchildren, and, you know, as long as you live until you retire. That's amazing. You really get to know people on a real personal level. But there's obviously that aspect of flexibility as well, which I don't think as of now a lot of jobs give you. You know, it's nice to know that I'm not going to be working. For example, now it's Christmas. I didn't work on Christmas Day because I'm in my GP rotation now. It's just nice to know that, you know, I'm unlikely to miss my friend's birthday, my friend's wedding, family occasions, even when I have kids, like, you know, their birthdays and things like that. that was really, really important to me, family life. And if family life is something that's really important to you, you know, GP training is probably for you. In terms of hospital specialties that will give you that kind of flexibility in training, I think it's quite tough. I must say, GP training pay is quite good. The difference between what you're earning with your hospital colleagues is very, very minimal, and despite you not doing those night shifts or, you know, long days and so on. On that note, thank you guys so much for watching. I kind of feel like this video was all over the place because I was just chatting away, but I just thought to do a video on why you should not become a GP, you know, especially without knowing these facts. Thank you guys again for watching. If you have any video suggestions, comment down below. If you want to just say hi, comment down below. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. I would love to have you guys back for more videos. Thank you so much, and bye.